How are you all doing?
Good.
Good. So I'm assuming everyone's in the room, the comm major, comm minor. Okay, great. So thank you for coming to our third series of the Comm Studies Lunch and Learn, preparing everyone for careers. Today we have an exciting talk about social media, your presence, the job search, things to make sure that you're clearing up what you are putting on your different accounts. We have the LinkedIn one-on-one. We talked a little bit about public relations. Now we're looking at what does your social media look like for the job search in preparation for April 11th. Y'all know what April 11th is?
April 11th is it's the internship fair.
It's the internship fair.
And you're the one doing it.
Well, it's a part of the Arts and Communication Festival Week, but the Lunch and Learns will culminate with the Arts and Communication Internship Fair. So we wanted to make sure that everyone's prepared as you all are looking to gain employment. And so today we have a presentation by Dr. Lucas Logan, and so he is an expert on all things media, all things social media, and so he has a very exciting talk prepared for you guys. Feel free to ask him like thousands of questions because he's ready to answer everything. If there are no further questions, I will turn it over to Dr. Logan.
All right, how are you doing?
Good.
Good. Now, if you move forward if you want to, since there's no one here. What I understand is usually heavily attended, all kinds of people. But they heard I was coming. Also, there's t-shirts next door, so why would you even bother? Anyway, that doesn't really matter. I can give this talk to you. You can ask all the questions that you want to. We should have just enough time for all this through, especially with such a small crowd. So, about this, social media and your future. Some of these other talks, as Dr. Murray was saying, are things such as how to use LinkedIn or public relations, and these sorts of very practical applications to you. I, as an academic, am a bit more of a theorist than I am someone focusing on this actual practice of getting you a job and that kind of thing. Now, that being said, I hold that there is nothing more practical than good theory. So I'm going to tell you some very practical things and a lot of practical data about social media today. And you may leave this talk somewhat terrified at all of the things that I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you the scary parts of social media and the job hunt, not necessarily just how to clean up your resume. And I mean, I will talk a bit about how not to get fired for posting dumb things online and all of that, but there'll be a bit more to it than that. First of all, I want to talk about this concept of a digital footprint. Has anyone heard that phrase before? Yeah. What's that mean?
It means what you leave behind in social media, or what defines yourself in social media.
Yeah, it's what you leave behind online. And it's not necessarily just social media. It's your Google searches. It's what you're buying on Amazon. It's various websites you're visiting. Google, for instance, has all the information, everything you ever searched, collected. With new laws related to ISPs, like Comcast or Time Warner, etc., they're now allowed to collect every bit of thing that you do online and sell that information to advertisers or package that as ever they want to. There were laws passed during the Obama administration that forbade that from happening. Those rules have all been overturned by the current FCC. So everything you do is creating this digital footprint that can be copied, it can be shared, it can be broadcast to the world. A lot of times when you put things online, you write an angry comment on a review for something. That comment can be put into a magazine. It can be searched by anyone else who wants to sell you something. So these things can be broadcast and shared. This information can be bought and sold. We're going to talk a bit about data mining companies, and what these companies do essentially is take a profile of all your online searches, all your social media, all of your history. They put that into a package. They organize that package. They copyright that package so that no one has access to it but them. And then they sell that information to the highest bidder. A lot of times that may just be, say, Johnson & Johnson wanting information on who they need to sell baby powder to. They will reach out to the data miners on Facebook and get all of your information and buy it from them. So that's your digital footprint. And so we're going to talk a bit about watching your digital footprint, watching your steps. Now, with a lot of these things I'm going to talk about with your digital footprint, for a lot of people, they seem to think there's a simple solution to this. You just opt out. This sounds terrifying. Facebook, Google, they're collecting all my information. I'm just going to quit using them. Problem solved. No worries. The thing is, and we're going to talk about various reasons for that, but it's not practical for some basic reasons. And that is that social media, this is US users only. This is not worldwide. Worldwide, these numbers are much higher. But you can see here with Facebook, that's 222 million people. That's 68% of the US population is on Facebook. That does not mean that they're active users on Facebook, but that's how many people are registered. 114 million are on Instagram, you can see. Facebook owning Instagram, that's all the same thing. That's still that many people are on Facebook. 78 million on Twitter, 95 million on Pinterest, which I kind of thought was going downhill. 88 million on Snapchat. Expect to see that number dip, especially after this disastrous update they've done and how Instagram is taking over their entire market. LinkedIn has 82 million. I would imagine millions of those are just completely unused and sitting out there in the digital wastelands, but that's a lot. My point is, with all of this, is that with, say, 222 million people on Facebook, including your parents and your friends and your family and the restaurants that you like to go to and the things that you like to do only being broadcast on there, not being in a newspaper, not being on television, these things become integral to your social life. They become integral to your career and to your home life and to your politics and everything that you do. So it's not always just practical to say, forget this, I'm just going to get offline and run away from it. And as we'll talk about later, employers also expect you to be online and expect you to be on social media. One thing that we'll mention is that I've got the exact statistics later with some screening that businesses do. If they don't see any profile of you on Facebook or Twitter or even Snap or anything like that, if there's nothing there, they think that you're some kind of weirdo and then they just won't hire you. And the same thing too as far as not just where you can get a job, but say you want to get an Airbnb. Has anyone ever done an Airbnb? All right, what is the first thing you have to do when you sign up for Airbnb? One of the first things.
You have to put your contact information and usually list some kind of, usually you put some kind of social media contact on there.
Yeah, you have to put a social media contact on there so that they can make sure that you're not some serial killer or some crazy person. So you have to have this to even do basic things like, say, an Airbnb, and I think some rideshare services do this kind of thing too. So you're attached to this. You can't really escape it. So there's no right answers for how to handle your information on here, but there are many wrong answers, and there are best practices that you can use. I do want to talk a bit about data mining and how it works. Some of these companies, Datalogics, BlueKai, I know work especially for Facebook, but they also work for a lot of other companies, or Google, for instance, and so they hire on these third parties, and then these third parties are there to collect your information and to help these social media services and search engines and other sites figure out who you are and how to market things to you, how to best market to their product, or market their product, which is you. At the basic level, how this works is, I'm sure you've gone, now it's gotten really bad. So if you're on Facebook or if you're on Google and you click on an advertisement, that advertisement is going to follow you around wherever you go. If you click on this brand of shoes, you're not going to be able to escape that brand of shoes. You can buy that pair of shoes, but you're still going to see it. At its base level, you think something works like this. You like cheese on Facebook, so you start getting ads for Kraft macaroni and cheese. And so that's the basics of how it works, and that is simply, like I said, when you get an ad, it jumps to this other thing. That's how that goes. But it actually gets a little bit more advanced than that. And so this is a 2013 Cambridge study on Facebook likes. And this is only Facebook likes. These actual data mining companies, they're following you around. You know, they can be on Amazon, Google, what have you. Again, now that ISPs can follow you everywhere, they're using that to collect every bit of data, everything that you do online. And so this 2013 Cambridge study was a huge study, 50,000 people. They could find out, based only on what people like on Facebook, their IQ, their sexual orientation, things that absolutely were not shared on Facebook, were not public, that you never actually said. And so what they do, if they were actually data mining, they could combine this with browsing histories and search queries and purchase histories and get a really full idea of who you are. Now, some of the problems with this. So one thing they found out was that if you liked curly fries and you liked Morgan Freeman on Facebook, you tended to have a higher IQ. They had the IQ range of, okay, so this person, so much percentage of these people I think this was within 80% accurate, and higher than average IQ. Okay, and so they're doing that, and so when they're selling you stuff, they're thinking of that. What products appeal to higher IQ people? Now, something a little more problematic than that. With over 60% accuracy, they found that if you like the city of Austin, Texas, and you like this one Lil Wayne quote that has its own page on Facebook, which I'm not even sure it's a real Lil Wayne quote, but it's attributed to him, then you're a likely drug user with a low IQ whose parents divorced before you were 21. Okay, they found that with over 60% accuracy. Now the problem there, the difficulty, is what about that 40%? What if you like those two things, but you're not a drug user? You have a high IQ. And it doesn't really matter whether or not your parents were divorced, but say that just absolutely wasn't the case at all. In terms of people selling you things, that may not be that problematic to you. You may say, okay, well then they'll just mess up the products that they're trying to sell me, mess up things of who I am. But the thing is, when they find this information, it's not just that, you know, oh, well, I'm hiding this information, I'm not letting people know things, I'm not really doing anything wrong. It's they're creating a profile of you based on algorithms that decides who you are, whether or not that's who you are. So it's not, it's your privacy is not necessarily what you're sharing, but this thing that's being created that is you, that is a profile. Now, as far as jobs go, this is starting to get more common with data scraping. So data scraping, which is really data mining, HR uses it to find resumes online, scrape LinkedIn and wherever else, Craigslist, anywhere that they can find any kind of resume or anything like that. But it's also being used increasingly to scrape online history. So companies are more and more starting to do this, are starting to profile potential hirees based on these online profiles that aren't even things you've necessarily created. It's just a mishmash of your digital footprint, of your history that's been there all along. And so, for instance, the kind of thing they use is you'll get a company here, like Cactusoft, that just they're a web app developer for businesses. They'll say, okay, we want something that will help us find our employees or potential employees, find out all of their social media and their search histories and all of that, and we want to search. There are some liability concerns with that, and that's why you can't really get good numbers on how many people are doing this, but it's becoming more common, and I can tell you the laws are really hazy on it. So my recommendations with that are not really recommendations, it's just to remember that it's not just what you're sharing, there's this profile of you that is out there whether you like it or not, and so you should be very aware of that when you are trying to maintain a digital footprint. And so the basic steps you can take that won't protect you from everything, but will help you, are to lock down your account, as in go to privacy settings, set everything exactly where you want it. Facebook is required by the Federal Trade Commission to send you a notification every time they change the privacy settings. So if you're active on Facebook or Insta, you'll notice that every time they change privacy settings, you get a thing that makes it look like Facebook is being really helpful to you. But that's really the Federal Trade Commission, after they busted Facebook for antitrust, making them do that. Opt out when you can. So opt out means if there's location sharing services or something like that you don't want, make sure that you are going in there and disabling those. Some social media sites are better about that than others. Snapchat, for instance, with their location services, it's opt-in, meaning that you have to click the button to let people know where you are. Otherwise, they will just ghost you out of that. Be aware that they are following everything that you're doing, everything you click on, every movement you make on the screen is being tracked, that they are just trying to sell you stuff. And that information could also eventually go to the government or employers or anything like that. So be careful what you do, what you click on, and that kind of thing. That said, the degree to which you want to do this and be paranoid about your online presence is completely up to you. You can take a more relaxed approach to it and just think, okay, I'm not going to do anything too stupid. They'll find the information about me that they want to find. Or you can go all out and be, I'm only going to work through an onion router and never share any information with anybody, or however you want to do it. But essentially, you do have to have some kind of digital footprint, and it's up to you how to maintain it. So what I've told you really is that the scariest sort of things you can't necessarily control. And there are things that you can control. But do remember that technology moves faster than the law. The law takes forever to move. And that privacy is not always an organizational priority. Companies don't really care about your privacy. They're more concerned about their bottom line. They're more concerned about making sure they have employees that think will be responsible. And so if they can get around the privacy law, they will. And so I have to smoke the barrier saying only you can protect your privacy and your digital footprint, but that's not always the case. Even when you try to lock in and do, or lock your stuff down and do everything I recommended. Here is a list from the National Conference of State Legislatures on state social media privacy laws. So these are states that ban employers from doing things like requesting that you give them your social media passwords. Okay, so we look at the states that have these laws. All right, what do we see between Tennessee and Utah? We see nothing. We do not see the state of Texas, meaning that employers in the state of Texas can't legally say, hey, I need a password to your Facebook account and fire you for not handing it over. You can afterward contact the ACLU and you can put out a big lawsuit. You might win that and you might be $300,000 in the hole. So just keep that in mind. There are laws about those things. You don't have a lot of control over your information online when it comes to this. So even if you are taking best practices, you're not putting up any party pics, you're writing angry messages to anyone who puts up a picture of you with a drink in your hand or anything like that there are still ways around it in a lot of cases. I will say most employers do have rules against it. UHD, for instance, if you're working here, we're not even supposed to search you on Google or check out any of your social media accounts or anything like that. We're only supposed to look at professional things. But that kind of does go both ways. It's at the basics, though, for just straight up our traditional minded, how many employers are just getting on the internet and looking you up. This is from careerbuilder.com, which isn't just the most peer-reviewed academic thing, but does collect the best data for this. And this says that with employers, U.S. employers in general, 59% are using search engines, so they are Googling you when you apply for a job. 41% won't interview you if they can't find you online. So again, that's you need some kind of social media account or something out there so that they can make sure that they can screen you in some way. What are they looking for? 53% here said they're looking for professional presence. So making sure that, in your picture, you are dressed nice or something like that, and you're not just getting in public fights on political posts and things the entire time. 31% are looking for what other people are posting about you. So be sure to keep that in mind if you have particularly shady friends. You might want to do more than just block them. You might want to see what they're actually doing. 21% of people are going in there to find reasons not to hire you. When you work in HR, you have a stack of resumes that is this big, and you were told by someone to whittle it down to a stack of resumes that is this big. And so one easy way to do that is to look for reasons not to hire somebody. And so that is what they're doing. Only 15% of companies prohibit this practice. So the vast majority, 85%, are going to be looking for this. The ones that do prohibit are often things like state agencies or things like UH downtown universities that tend to have more stringent rules with that. But most companies are looking for this. Now, why are they hiring people as opposed to not? 44% said background information supported job qualifications. So if there's something in the job qualifications, like you need to be good with people, or perhaps they're looking for information about things on your resume and a deeper sense of that, saying pictures of you in your old workplace or something, they're looking at conveying a professional image, goodness of fit, meaning that you fit in with the organization and what it wants to do. And so that can be, again, postgraduate on a professional level, or it can be something like a new bar or restaurant, looking to see if you're cool. All right, just making a goodness of fit. They want to make sure that you're well-rounded, that you have a wide range of interests. So just making sure that you are kind of a normal person who can get along with other people in a work setting. And 36% say because of great communication skills. How you find that out online, I'm not entirely sure, but that is something that you should have a head on. In fact, with a lot of this stuff, this social media, how to present yourself kind of things, a lot of this is really benefited by being a communication major, because that is what you do, is whether you're health or public, you essentially study how people send and receive messages, so you should have a good feel on how to project that, on how to project good messages. Reasons they don't hire you, 46% because of pictures, those party pics that are online. That also means you're public snaps, things that you think disappear popping up. Watch out for that kind of stuff too. Information about you drinking or using drugs. So again, try and censor those pictures. If you're on something like Facebook, or I know these people do, make sure that no one can tag you without your permission. Those kinds of anything, comments related to race, religion, gender, etc. Watch out for those charged political posts. Bad-mouthing previous company or employee online. Watch out for those Yelp reviews, Amazon reviews, going in and leaving bad stuff about places that you have been. 29% poor communications will often just mean bad grammar and spelling. So, maybe capitalize I, whether or not you want to, when you're writing on Facebook. There's little things. Someone seeing, and they can write that and say this person has decent. All right, so you're never in the clear. So 41% of these are still researching their current employees. 32% are checking up on employees. And 26% have fired or reprimanded somebody over social media, which can be a somewhat controversial practice, saying that, oh, you did this online. What's the problem here? It's outside of work, but companies will still go in and reprimand somebody for getting in a politically charged argument or bad-mouthing fellow employees or something like this, or talking bad about the company on Twitter. You have to be extremely careful when you do this. Really, your entire, really anything you do with, not even just a public, but a private Twitter account and all of that, you have to watch out. So, I guess we have time to talk about this, because we have a small group, so we have plenty of time. There's a book called So You've Been Publicly Shamed. I can't remember who the author is, but there is a woman profiled in it, Justine, I'm trying to think of her name. And this is like a worst case scenario. Nice. In my language, So You've Been Publicly Shamed. Justine Sacco. You may have heard of this, you might have remembered when this happened. She was a public relations director, and she was flying to, I forget where she was flying to exactly, in Africa. And I'm not too sure which, I want to say she was going to Kenya. Anyway, she made a post to her 60 Twitter followers on her private account that said something to the effect of, I want to get it just right, so I don't sound even more offensive than it sounds. Going to Africa, hope I don't get AIDS, just kidding, I'm white. That's what she made. Now, I would say with that, so obviously the argument against her is that that is a really awful and just on its face racist thing to say. The argument that she makes, and that some people who later on kind of defended her made, was that she was actually making a comment on white privilege, on things like, for instance, remember there was an Ebola outbreak for a while that seemed to go away as soon as white people started getting Ebola. So she's making this sort of argument that because I'm white, it's not just that I'm immune to AIDS or I'm not going to get it, only black people get AIDS. She's saying that there is this level of privilege that nothing bad is going to happen to me because I'm white and because we live in this racist society. So she's trying to be ironic, and whether or not she is a joke and she's failing miserably at it. Anyway, she goes in the sky, so she's in airplane mode. She's done. One of her friends, one of her like 60 followers on Twitter or something, retweets that to a larger audience, someone who has connections in the media or something. They say, oh my God, can you believe this person said that? And it goes viral. Like hundreds of thousands of people see this in absolutely no time at all. Once somebody starts trending on Twitter, it's there. And so while she is in the sky flying to Kenya, she gets fired from her job. There becomes a hashtag going along of when she's going to land. People find out what flight she is on and when she's going to land in the airport. People start congregating at the airport to start yelling at her as soon as she gets off the plane. So her plane lands, she gets out of airplane mode, and when you get off the flight, you get out of airplane mode, your phone starts beeping, and the battery starts going right down. Yeah, her phone, she says, dies in her hands because of all the notifications and the text and everything that she's getting just instantly overloads her phone. And she does manage to see what has happened, and she's confused, And so and one of the things she gets is that she's been fired from her job. She exits the plane in tears. People are all around her with cameras, taking pictures, yelling at her, telling her what a piece of garbage she is and all of this. And so she's heavily traumatized. She, apologizes and all of this. The argument everyone makes is, oh, it's just online, it's just the internet. And what can it really do? She ends up in therapy. She can't get a job anywhere. Like no one will hire her. She finally in Florida, but then she accepts the job and then realizes the guy gave her a job because he's a racist and he agreed with what she said in an unironic way. So she quits that job. I think joins the Peace Corps and just disappears for a few years. It's this weird life situation. All right, that is worst case scenario of social media gone wrong in the workplace. But on a smaller level than that, you're often seeing people getting reprimanded, especially if you work for a school or something like this, with, oh, you're at a party, it was at your house, in your living room, and you have a drink in your hand, and people complaining and that kind of deal. So there is this sort of reprimand that goes in with social media, and so you do always need to be aware of it, even if you don't necessarily think it's fair. Another thing though, 18% of candidates search hiring managers. I would recommend that you do this, and you do flip those tables and not just research the company, but you go ahead and Google those HR people, Google those people that are going to be your boss, and figure out where they stand on certain things, what kind of people they are. And this can be information that can help you out over time in the long run. Now I do want to jump into a little bit of practical stuff about LinkedIn. I know before, who was at the previous Lunch and Learn? Anyone? Okay, cool. So they had one before that was all, it was very just LinkedIn focused, had to be LinkedIn champion kind of person. I'm going to do this from a more critical perspective. LinkedIn does have 500 million users worldwide. So a lot of people are on LinkedIn, and it does get used fairly heavily. So the privacy overview with LinkedIn, what can they do? They can sell your information to anyone. They control who sees your information. So they have more control than you do over who's going to see it. They can block you for using competitors. So think twice before you get on Google Hire or one of these that we're going to talk about. And they own your file. So if LinkedIn wants to put out an ad, and it's like, these are the people of LinkedIn, they can just throw your resume and your picture up there, and there's not really much you can do about it. Will they do that? No, that would be awful public relations for them. They would crash and burn overnight if they did that, but they can do it if they want to. So that's their privacy overview. Basically, everything you give to LinkedIn belongs to LinkedIn. Best practices with that are things like having a professional presentation. Networking is very important on there. So actually use LinkedIn not just to look for jobs, but to network with others. So reach out to other people that you know on there. Talk to people. Make friends on there, maybe even more so than you would on social media where you only want to talk to people that you actually know IRL. Make sure that you stay up to date. Put a lot of keywords with your specialty, with your skill set, and all these things in here. Have your contact information and be very clear about what it is you're communicating. And I can't get too focused on there, but here's just a picture with a few things that you need to be doing on here on a LinkedIn profile. Just having lots of keywords that say everything that you are talking in the first person and having up-to-date contact information. So this is more the basic how to present yourself on that particular website that you may be using to get a job. In the future, we have Google Hire, which is coming around. Google Hire is maybe set to take on LinkedIn. We often talk about, I say we as in people, not just academics, but people in the tech community and all of that, as the online world is getting very consolidated into a few things. You've got Google, you've got Amazon, you've got Facebook. You don't really have much else. So with something like Google, it is beginning to absorb, or it is going to try and absorb LinkedIn, much as Facebook/Instagram is probably about to absorb Snapchat and any other competition that comes its way. So probably the future is going to be Google Hire, which may fail, but may also be successful. Google Hire is something that you can log into through your Google account. So you're logging in just like you would YouTube or Gmail or anything like that, and then you're able to put all of your profile information there. Now, of course, the first fear that people get with this didn't turn out to be true, but it is something to think about, is that Google, they had to deny that the recruitment tool would let employers snoop on your entire search history. Of course, it's not true. Google is not going to allow that to happen. However, this is just one more aspect of your life that will now belong to Google. Okay, so they will own all of your search history, everything you've ever done on YouTube, everything you've ever looked for, all the purchases that you make and Google Shopping, all of that stuff. And this will be expanded to your resume and all of those things too. You can, through Google Hire, utilize some Google tools like Docs and YouTube and all of that, things that are part and parcel of it. So it may be worth making that Google Hire account as well. I don't necessarily think LinkedIn will really kick you off for doing that, but it's possible. All right, so in sum, kind of finishing this off. Utilize online privacy whenever you can, but know that your data is going to be out there. So again, I mentioned early on at the very beginning of this thing that there aren't really any right answers, but there are best practices, and the best practices are going to be specific to you and what you think you want to do with your future, and what you think you want to do with your career and the kind of person that you want to be. I can say now with this job as a professor, all of my social media accounts, they're somewhat, especially like Facebook and all that, is on lockdown, but they're not very, I really don't keep professional social media accounts because I kind of just don't have to this job. I just make sure I don't do anything too egregious or stupid, and I act like an adult on there, and things are fine. Where I more lock down my information is with, not necessarily websites I've visited, but I really don't trust, for instance, Comcast to not throttle my speeds and those kinds of things, so I sort of watch out for all of that. I do different things that are specific to me and my needs. I don't really have a job where I'm going to get fired for, having a drink in my hand with every other professor in the university down the street. So that's not really my prerogative. It may be yours, especially on the job line, is making sure everything's pristine and professional, and that also searching your name every now and then on Google, making sure that bad things don't appear. In the European Union, they have the right to be forgotten. In California, they have an eraser button law. And what those allow you to do is if there's some old information about you, like say there's a DUI you got 12 years ago that is off the books, no longer on your record, you can have that information scraped from Google. It'll still be in the newspaper. Someone can still search it there, but no one's going to be able to use Google to get to that newspaper. We do not have laws like that here in Texas, or really anywhere in the U.S. except California. So it is important to Google yourself. And to do that every now and then. Go on Facebook and search your name sometime. Make sure people aren't talking about you in public. And figure out all those kinds of things. So, keep on top of that when you are looking for a job or on the hunt or anything like that. Do your own research on yourself, like I said. If you're on LinkedIn, or you should be on LinkedIn, make sure that you are networking. You should do this in the real world as well. That is the #1 thing that's going to get you a job. Also, communication grads, as I say here, are uniquely positioned to take advantage of our brave, new, horrifying world. Meaning that you should all be somewhat good communicators, and that should translate into your social media skills. All right, I ran through that because there's like 6 of us here. So, any questions? How do you feel after all of that? Yeah.
Make sure not to close.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Didn't realize that all that data that was, like you said, the data mining, like especially for Snapchat, because there's days where, like, for me, for example, whenever I go out of town or and I have a drink with some friends, and even with that alone could somehow affect if I have a professional job later on, like that could affect my employment status.
Yeah.
That was a little shocking. That I did not know.
Yeah, yeah, that kind of information is out there. One thing too I can throw out there about Snap is one of the things that Snap kind of honed its teeth on was its privacy. You're able to send something, it disappears, goes away just like that. One reason Snapchat lost $2.5 billion last year, other than dumb reasons like spending $500 million on Bitmoji, is because they can't advertise like Facebook can, because they can't take all that information from you. Facebook will, if there's a picture of you in your house and there's a box of Tide behind you, you might start seeing advertisements for Tide. They will analyze those pictures. Snapchat's not doing that, so they're not able to target their advertising you as well. So they're not making the ad money, so they're gushing money. So the real solution to that is to quit being so private and to start really scraping your videos and more and more if they want to survive. And they're making some compromises already. I mentioned the horrible new the new GUI, the new graphic. Just the new Snapchat setup, which if you're on Snap, you've seen, you probably hate. Yeah. Like a lot of that has to do with competition from Facebook and Instagram, just kind of eating them up. But yeah.
So what about the AdSense for YouTube? Like, the commercials that they play before the video. It's like, I know like YouTube, for a lot of the content creators or for the YouTube creators out there, like I know a couple of my buddies, they had to upload even more videos themselves just to get to that bare minimum of like the amount of real watch time hours versus like, oh, how many times does this video gets clicked on? Like, oh, that's a like,
Yeah.
Recently, YouTube had that change, and that's been like a real hindrance. I don't know why, but it's been a
because they need more views for the.
Yeah, because they said they need like, oh, what they for statistics wise, they said they need to like meet a certain amount of real time watch hours in order to be considered like, oh, a YouTube partner.
Yeah. So that. I don't know how that really affects like privacy and that kind of thing, but as far as you're trying to make money off of YouTube, it is more difficult to do. I got a couple of videos on YouTube that had a lot of views that I used to get those, AdSense, do you want to put ads in these? And I would say, no, I don't care. I don't get those anymore precisely the reason you're saying. Yeah. As far as the targeting on those AdSense videos, they're usually based on the content of the video and trying to recommend you to things that are similar, as opposed to maybe things you search and all of that. Those get more advanced. Who use it?
So you think Snapchat is pretty safe?
I mean, yeah, as far as compared to most social media sites, it's definitely a lot safer if you're being smart about it. I mean, there's still, as far as it goes, you can still record the screen on Snapchat. I mean, if you've got Android, you can kind of do anything you want to with those Snapchat videos. You can rip them or anything without the other person seeing you taking a screenshot, all of that. But that's more just people on the other end being sneaky. As far as them selling information, they do less than you'll see from Facebook and even less than Twitter, which isn't quite as bad about it. But yeah, it's not like your whole identity is going to get stolen or anything like that. I would say Snapchat's safer than the others, but their privacy is eroding too. And eventually, it's not that they'll be selling that information to employers necessarily, but you will probably start seeing more targeted advertising there if they want to survive. Yeah.
They also track like things like that you view, like Netflix, Hulu, those type of things. Are they checking out what kind of content you're watching there?
Oh yeah, especially what I mentioned about internet service providers, about those new laws. They, like Comcast, Time Warner, AT&T, wherever you subscribe to internet or cable through, now that they can collect all your information, they know everything that you watch on Netflix, and they're able to put that. Whereas with Google is limited. Google can somewhat figure out what you're watching on Netflix and have access to Netflix's account on you. Your ISP does. And so they're able to collect all of that information.
That's probably why they really want you to create logins for profiles for your children, yourself, so they can really say, okay.
Yeah, that's exactly why. They want to be able to figure out all that information. And a lot of the reason even they prohibit like Netflix and not sharing accounts, it's not so much because they're losing out on the subscription, it's because they want to find out information about each individual viewer so that they can then target, not necessarily advertisements on there, but certain content, and then sell the information of what their viewers are watching to other people. So, and they've been really bad with breaches. They outed somebody, they were making fun of somebody on Twitter who watched some awful Christmas movie like 20 times in a row around the holidays, and they outed that person on Twitter and made fun of them, and there was a little bit of a problem. So, this kind of things happen. So the essential idea with that is you really don't know who works at Netflix that has information about everything that you're doing. So that can be a problem for a lot. All right, more questions?